What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now apparently I deleted the intro to this video for some reason, so I'm back here refilming it, but today we're installing a custom made carbon fiber flat bottom steering wheel in the Yas Marina Blue M4. Today's video, I'm going to show you guys a full breakdown, not only how to remove the old steering wheel for anyone looking to learn how to actually take the old steering wheel off, but we're going through the full step-by-step process on how to transfer all of the electronics from the old one, take them all apart and transfer them over to the new one. It's going to be a good video. Make sure you guys get comfortable. I'm going to go jump on the workbench in my previous video and we'll take a look at the new wheel. All right, everybody, here is the reveal for the new carbon fiber M4 steering wheel. Man, this thing just looks so good. So to kind of tell you the spec that I went with, this is the custom steering wheel. I have perforated sides, carbon fiber top and bottom, M stitching as well as the M stripes up top. I also went with the carbon fiber trim piece that comes actually included. And then I went with the silver outline. I think there's so many other silver accents in the car, there was no reason for me to change that. It helps, I think, tie everything else in. Now the steering wheel does come with this backing, which is made for the paddle shift models. Obviously, I'm a manual, so I don't need that. But everything on my current steering wheel will swap over, including the backing, the buttons, as well as the airbag. Now, reasons why I didn't go with the LED model. The reasoning is one, cost. I didn't think it was really worth the money, and two, kind of paired up with that, I've also heard they're kind of glitchy. So I've heard that pretty much if these sit in the sun, the LED strip and everything, not everything works and functions as it's supposed to. I just decided I didn't want to deal with it. I thought that this looked a little bit cleaner, so this is the route that I went. Now, this steering wheel, from what I could find, anywhere else, including this carbon fiber trim piece here, you were looking at probably $1,500 to $1,600, if not more. This steering wheel, on the other hand, $750 out the door. Could not beat the pricing. I got it from Colorado N5X. They do a buy of someone in their area that makes custom wheels, and they buy basically 2 of every style. So about 8 different F chassis ones, and then he does 2 of each. So I've been looking at these wheels since I bought the car, so I was extremely excited when he finally restocked up on these. But reasons why I love this wheel: one, I hate Alcantara. I know I'm not with the crowd, but I don't like Alcantara, so for me the perforated lever was the way to go. It has these amazingly aggressive cutouts here with these thumb grips as well, which are much larger than any of the other steering wheels. They were mostly like leveled out, so I love that these were really aggressive looking. The steering wheel itself is much thicker than the OEM steering wheel. It just, I mean, just look at it. It's just beautiful. And I can really attest to the quality of this wheel. The stitching is really just on point. The quality of the leather and everything is just perfect. There's no like marks, no scratches, no flaws cosmetically that I can find. We'll see how the fitment goes, but overall it looks absolutely amazing. We'll go ahead and jump in the garage and we'll get started on this install. Whew, I'm excited. So we are going to be working with the airbag today, so for safety we always want to make sure that we disconnect the battery so we don't have any issues there. In most BMWs you can pop the trunk and it's going to be somewhere right over here in the right corner. Go ahead and loosen up your negative terminal and wrap a microfiber around the towel. We're also going to put a microfiber right here just to ensure that we don't close the trunk with the battery disconnected. And like I mentioned, we're going to put a microfiber towel right through here just to ensure we don't close this trunk, because if you close it with the battery unplugged, you can't get back into it. So now that you have the battery disconnected, the first thing you want to do with your steering wheel to take it off is going to be to remove the airbag. So if you take a look underneath the steering wheel, you're going to have a hole right here, and you're going to have another one on the exact opposite side. Basically what those holes are used for is you take a flathead screwdriver and you stick it in there at a perfect angle there, and it basically is pushing in the spring. As you're pushing in the spring, you should be able to pull the airbag out on each side, and that's pretty much how you do it. So if you take the flathead and you face it this direction, it makes it a little bit easier, I noticed on this side, to push in that spring. If you turn it flat so it's facing like this, it seems to want to slide past it. So I suggest putting it on its side. All right, that was actually pretty simple. So now that we've got the airbag removed, I'll go ahead and put you guys on my hat so you guys can actually see close up of what we're about to disconnect next. So I wasn't able to get the camera in there to remove this cable, but just to show you which cable I removed, it's this top one right here. It plugs in right up top here on the plug-in, and you disconnect that and you're going to easily pull out your airbag. Go ahead and sit that somewhere safe. We do not want any explosions today. So for anybody who's curious what it looks like, you've got all of our connections in here. Now I don't have the heated steering wheel function or any of that, so I don't have any of that I have to disconnect. For us, what we do need to disconnect is going to be this top plug right here. After that, I believe the only thing we need to do is just take out this 16mm bolt here, and we should be good to go. So I do want to show you guys when you're decompressing the spring for the airbag how it actually works. So I want you to pay attention to these wires that are right in here. This little hole right here, that's where the actual point of the airbag goes in to make a connection. And you see that little wire right there? That goes into a groove, which is what holds in the airbag. So when you put your screwdriver in here in the bottom, you can see it come through right there. So I want you to look at that whenever I push it in, watch it compress. See, so it moves that spring out of the way, and that's what actually releases the airbag. So this plug up top here, which is the last one for me to remove, is a little bit more difficult. It looks like the release is way back in the back and it has to be pushed down before it can pull out. All right, so the best way I found to do this, so you can see the release tab is right here on top, right there. And the best way I found to do this is if you come in from the front, instead of trying to go on top, come in from the front and just stick in between the actual plug itself, and then just try to like push down a little bit, which will lift this up and pull it down just enough, because that's barely just a little edge it needs to get past, and that should take that off. So the next thing we need to do is take a 16mm, and we're going to go ahead and take out this center bolt. So to take out this, you're going to go ahead and get your 16mm here, and then just hold the steering wheel with your knees to keep it from sliding. But go ahead and put it on there and break it loose. It does take a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set that in my cup holder. And if you want to draw your attention and look here, if you see the steering wheel has all of these little notches on it, and the receiving part that you're actually setting the steering wheel on also has one little notch down at the very bottom, and the steering wheel itself has a notch all the way down at the very bottom. That way when you take the steering wheel on and off, you can make sure that it always goes on in the exact correct place each time. Just a cool thing that BMW did. But once you have your 16mm bolt on there, this thing should basically just slide right off. And there we have it. All right, steering wheel's off. So let's go ahead and look at these two steering wheels in comparison on the workbench. So here's the two steering wheels side by side, and really when you put them here, you can really see just the drastic differences in how much more aggressive this new wheel is going to look. Just looking at the bottom sections of the wheel, just when you add all of these curves and bumps and cutouts, it really just does add to that steering wheel. And I mean, the steering wheel is something that you're going to touch every single time you drive the car. Why not make it something beautiful to look at as well? It's just thickness wise, I mean, you can just really see how much of a change this new wheel is going to make. But the next steps is of course to transfer all of the guts and everything over to here to make a complete steering wheel. We're going to need to transition these buttons as well as the backing, since the backing that came with it is for paddles. Remove the backing, and then I actually have red M1 and M2 buttons that we're going to be installing as well. So let's go ahead and get started on this. I'll tell you guys everything that we're going to be taking off and basically as we go through it, but let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first things first, we need to go ahead and take off this trim piece here. That's what gives us access to these buttons. And these are pretty much all T20s. Now, if you guys don't already have like a screwdriver Torx kit, This one I got here is absolutely insane. We've got all of our screwdrivers down here of pretty much every size. And then you have your Torx bits up here. And these pretty much go up to a T20. Anything bigger than that, you'd probably have to get another kit. I was unable to find one that had like everything. But this has the majority. And the coolest part is it does come with this insane carry case that completely locks down. And I mean, this thing is awesome. I can take it pretty much anywhere. So if you don't have one of these, I will go ahead and link one down in the description, but we'll go ahead and start getting these T20s off. And these are also magnetic, which does come in handy. These here, these are also gonna have to come off. We should be able to lift the trim piece out now. All right, trim piece is out. Set that aside. So the good thing when you're working on the steering wheel is just about everything is a T20 when you're taking it off. So you really only need to use one Torx bit. But one thing is kind of a pointer. When it comes to removing these, you're going to have silver bolts and you're going to have black bolts. Pretty much for reference, the silver bolts are really going to be on the face and then the internal. And your black screws are going to be coming out of the back side. The only black screw that you're going to see that's coming out of the internal is going to be this one that's right here, which is actually the ground for a lot of these electronics. Now, luckily for me, my OEM steering wheel doesn't have the heated function, it doesn't have the vibration function, so really wire-wise it's extremely clean. It's going to be a very easy transfer over to the new wheel. But like I said, ultimately multiple things in here are going to be a T20, so I'm just slowly taking this thing apart. Basically I took out these back sides and I took out the bottom one, so now we should be able to remove this back plate. Let's see if we can get it slid off here. See what's possibly holding it. Okay, so it looks like we have a wire that goes right down here, and then we also have this wire right here which I lifted out. So this wire is for these. And you can see it kind of snaking out down here. I'm just trying to do everything carefully. Gonna sit that like that. Let's see if there's anything. Yep, there's another one on this side. Now I don't want to mess up the ground, so I'm just trying to snake this cable out. Okay. Alright, so the backing should come off now. Alright, and this is the backing we're going to transfer over to the new wheel, since the one that came included with it had the paddle shifter cutouts. Obviously I'm a manual, so I need these actually intact. So I'll go ahead and set this over to the side as well. Next, we're pretty much going to be left with just our electronics. Sit there so it can balance. Alright, so for our electronics, they are fully loose now because the bolt that went in the backside is the only thing that was holding those in place. Next, I need to go ahead and remove this plate right here in the center. This is what actually holds on to your airbag. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I believe it's just these three, which are also T20s. Oh, a little bit harder to break loose. Probably would have been useful to have a ratchet for this, but we'll make it work. And I have never done this before, so I am also learning. Okay, so those there. Right. Man, that's on there. Okay. All right, so that should take our plate off now. So this piece right here goes down, and that is our ground. So I'm going to take that one out. Shocker, T20. All right, like I said, that's the only one that goes on the face that is black. So just to make sure I differentiate those, I think they're the exact same, but I'm just going to set that one back there. All right, and then there's one thing that I'm going to note. So this is your ground cable right here. As you can see, it is a circle with an extended piece of silver. One point that I definitely need to give a shout out to Keys Motorsports for pointing it out, because I had no idea. But if you go down here and look where it came in, you'll see that there's two little posts right here. That is to hold that piece right there. So ensure that when you put it back into on the new wheel, you line it up in those grooves right there to make sure that you do not cause any issues with your airbag. According to Keys, if you have it sticking over here, you'll push down on your airbag for your horn, and your horn will stay on. So make sure that you have it set in those grooves right there. But ultimately, now we've got that out, all of our electronics are now removable so that we can place these on the new steering wheel. So we're gonna take a little detour from the steering wheel, and we're gonna look at one of the other modifications that we're adding in here, and that is these glorious looking red M1 and M2 buttons. So I'm adding these basically in as I'm doing this swap, because I have to take off all the parts anyways. Better do something once than twice. So we're going to be replacing this M1 and M2 button with the red ones. I think it's going to look really cool. But basically what you'll do is once you've gotten this far, and if you're just doing these, you don't need to, of course, take the whole steering wheel off. You really just need to take the trim piece off right here, and then you'll be able to get to these. And the screw on the back that you see, a lot of people think you can just take these off by removing that. You don't, because the trim piece here actually overlays on top of this edge. So you do, in fact, have to take this trim piece off to get to these. But anyways, so the back side of here, you're looking at just 3 little screws. Go ahead and take those out. They're a little screwdriver set. They are very small screws. Love these magnetic tips on these screwdrivers. Make this so easy. Now once you take out this last screw, you're going to see very easily the back plate comes completely off with our electronics intact. Carefully set those down there. And then when you look on the back here, this is going to be where we take out our tabs. Now to show you guys a little bit easier to understand, there's basically tabs in here, and we basically pull them back and push it through, and the button should fall out. Here are the tabs on the new ones that we're going to be putting on. So these 2 tabs right here, that's what we're going to be removing. So we're going to push those in and push that down. Let me see if I can get a flat head and see if we can do these. All right, so we're going to get this a nice skinny little flat head. And we're replacing these 2. Push these tabs out, push down, out, and push down. Takes a minute here. All right. So each tab on each side, you push them outwards, and then you push them down, and your button should come straight out the other side. So I'll try to show it a little bit better. Again, this is hooked onto my hat, so if I push it close to the camera, I can't see anything. So I'm doing this kind of blind. All right, so here's our tab. Double check. Yep. So here's our tab right here, there, and there. I'm going to push this outwards and down so slightly. And you can see it's being held there, pushed over, if you can see that. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And the other side clicked in. It might take a minute. Every time I push one over, the other one clicks back into place. Okay, got it. And that slides out. Next, go ahead and take your M1 and M2 buttons. This should very simply just slide into place and snap in, just like the other ones we just removed. All right, so that's snapped in. And we'll go ahead and do the M1. All right. So you can see on the back here, here is your 2 tabs. They're a little bit easier to see now that they're red. But there's these 2 tabs here, and that's what you're pushing outwards away from it and trying to push down. So now we'll go ahead and reattach our wires. Slide them in like that. We are going to take our little tiny screwdriver and our little tiny screws. See, that magnet is just so useful. And just tighten them down, just gently. This is plastic you're screwing into, and these are very gentle. Okay, last one. Cool. All right, let's jump back over to the new wheel so we can get everything put on. Guys, let's go ahead and get started on putting some parts on the new wheel. So we're gonna do everything in the reverse order, which is gonna involve starting with the airbag mount. So we're gonna take our electronic pieces all over to here. Okay, and like I said, we're literally gonna do everything in reverse. So we're gonna start with our airbag screws. I'm gonna get all these on before I tighten them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these down. They were very tight, so I'm going to tighten them down pretty good, but still hand tight. Don't take any impact wrench down on these things. Just do it by hand. All right, so the next thing was, I feel like I should do this like Blue's Clues. Do you know what the next step in the process is? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do the ground. Remember what I said about those grooves? The grooves are here on this wheel as well. And remember, this one black screw is the one that was on the front, also 220. Okay. Making sure I've got that piece set up in that groove. So now that the ground is in place and screwed in, the next thing that we took off was the backing, because that's what holds in these electronic pieces. So let's go ahead and take the OEM piece that came on my current steering wheel, because remember, I don't have paddles. Take that, sit that on there. So I'm going to tackle this side first, since this screw down here has to go in after we put the trim piece on. As you can see on the new carbon fiber trim piece we're going to be putting on, it does have that screw hole right there. So that's how you attach the back. But we're going to go ahead and put these electronic pieces and attach those. They're a little bit finicky to line up, so it's going to be, try to hold these and put them in back here. Before I tighten it up, I'm going to make sure it's lined up where it needs to be so we're not breaking anything. Top and bottom look all squared away. So I'm not going to tighten it down super tight here. We're screwing into plastic. Okay, we'll start on the other side. All right, before I tighten that one up, make sure I got everything lined up. Looks like there's a little bit of a gap on this side. So I did figure out what was causing that slight gap, because as you can see on this side of the steering wheel, there's no gap in between the backing and the front piece. But there was a little bit of gap on this side, and I actually figured out that it's this foam right here. This foam is just a little bit too thick, so I did take a Dremel and bring it down just a little bit. I am going to take the Dremel again and bring it down just slightly more, because there's still a little bit of a gap, and that should help close it. And look at that, no more gap. Perfect. And this is totally normal. Not every steering wheel can be made exactly the same. So this kind of thing is normal, just gotta work with what you got, I guess. But yeah, so I just used a little bit of Dremel and Dremeled some of that out until it laid flat, and looks good now. So just to check in so you guys can see kind of where we're at in the process. So I've got both of these end pieces on. Our back plate is on, connecting these on there. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna tuck these wires. They do have these little channels that you want to tuck them in. There's one down here, and then this little wire gets tucked in here as well. So I'm going to tuck all of those wires now, and then we'll go ahead and get moved on this face trim piece. If you guys are doing this yourselves, do what I did and actually take pictures on the wheel before you start taking everything off. Just in case you forget where something goes, you can always reference the old picture. Again, these steering wheels are all BMW built steering wheels, so they all match up exactly the same. So like I mentioned, right now I'm tucking these wires. This one gets tucked down underneath that tab, and then around under that, and then it also comes in and gets tucked under here. All right. And then from there, it gets tucked down. First, I'm gonna move this brown wire. It gets sat in these little tabs right here. Gently. That protects that cable. And then this one down here, it's a little bit tricky. That's another canal like there is on the other side. Push that down. This just keeps it out of the way of everything else. So you can see now how that cable is really fished through there to make sure it's fully out of the way. And that looks like all of our cables and everything is hooked up. I'm going to check these one more time for the airbag just to make sure that they're on there good, since I remember they were on there pretty tight. Still, don't go at this with an impact wrench. Please do not. Next, I believe we just need to take our new carbon fiber trim piece and put her in. Now it does snap up here at the top in this top tray here, so just be careful with those, especially when you're taking it off. Make sure all these rings are on the back here. I believe those came with this new one. Man, this piece is cool. And this is all real carbon fiber. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this is actual all real carbon fiber, and the weave is perfect. So let's get this piece set up in here. Oh, it just looks so good. Oh, that looks so good. And it just snaps in at the top. So once you get this in place, we'll go ahead and take our two silver ones, which is of course what holds on our trim piece. Remember, the silver ones go on the face, black ones go on the back, besides our ground. So we're gonna take our silver ones and put those in, which holds in our trim piece. And don't forget, the last piece is down here in the bottom on the back side, which is what holds in your back plate and your trim piece at the same time. So we're gonna take this, flip that over carefully. All right, guys, we have a fully put together steering wheel. Man, this thing looks so good. Oh, everything functions perfectly. All our cables are appropriately in the right places. This is just perfect. One thing to note, guys, and I will say here's another reason why it's good to take before pictures. I did just check the pictures just to confirm, but this cable right here, which is what plugs the steering wheel into the car, make sure that this cable runs behind the post for this trim piece. You can see the trim piece post is right here, and the cable itself runs back behind it. This is so that it keeps it out of the way of the airbag, so nothing's getting crimped or pressed in. Guys, there's only one quick few steps left to do. We just need to go get in the car and put this in. Man, I cannot wait to see what this thing looks like with an airbag and everything. Oh man. All right, let's go to the garage and let's get this finished. This is gonna look so good. So reinstalling this is just as simple as it was removing it. Like I mentioned, on the steering wheel itself, it does have that notch so that you cannot install it incorrectly. And that same tick mark is on the actual steering wheel post itself. You can see it right there at the bottom. So we're gonna put this on exactly how we took it off. All right, so back to the way that we uninstalled it. We're gonna first plug in this plug right here. Oh, I'm so excited. That one's in place. Next, we need to follow up by putting in our 16mm bolt. We do want to make sure that we're torquing this down to spec. Now the steering wheel bolt here, the torque spec is 46 foot-pounds. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna go ahead and get this started by hand. We don't want to strip anything. Now I do have a torque wrench here with me. If you do not have a torque wrench, I will have one linked down in the description that I use of Amazon. It's pretty inexpensive. All right, that's 46 foot-pounds. Okay, all right. All right, last things last, we just need to put the airbag on and we are finished. Just excuse my heavy breathing through this whole video, you guys. You know, one thing you guys should know about me is I'm fat, so, you know, we work with what we got here. Okay, so once again, this plug right here is going into this plug up top left. Oh, I'm so excited to see this finished. All right, moment of truth. Guys, this looks so good. Oh man, I'm so happy I did this. Oh, it just feels, ooh, this is so sick. Guys, if you have an OEM steering wheel, get you one like this. It doesn't have to be this exact one. You know, if you're an Alcantara boy or whatever and you prefer that, but this just changes the driving experience so much because, I mean, you literally are touching this the whole time that you drive. Wow.
Perfect.
So now that we have the full steering wheel installed, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna rehook up the battery. All the power should be restored and that should take care of everything. Since you're using OEM fittings and everything on the steering wheel, that shouldn't need any coating. You're not gonna see any error messages. Everything should work just as it did before. Now, if you guys like those red M1 buttons, or if you need any of the tools that I used in this video, you guys know everything is linked down in the description. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. You guys don't understand how much that kind of stuff helps with the YouTube algorithms. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm gonna go shoot some B-roll of this so you guys can see the final product, but I'll see you guys in the next one.